Why have we still seen no January signings? What is happening? We thought going into this January transfer window, this was the perfect time for Arsenal to replenish this squad. But not even just incomings, there should have been some outgoings happening at the club. This was a perfect time for Arsenal to trim the fat in this squad. We've got players at the club who are not good enough, but we also have positions in this team where we need some reinforcements. So I was always under the impression that this would be the perfect opportunity for Arsenal to start making moves. We've got players in midfield that need to be shipped out. You think of players like Mohamed Elneny, Jorginho. We should be finding clubs for these players, but we should also be bringing players in. We've been linked with players like Amadou Onana, so that would have been a perfect kind of deal. If you can get rid of Elneny and Jorginho, you're probably not going to get a massive fee for them. But you look at the wages as well, so you're getting rid of two players' wages, and that will help you when it comes to FFP. We know we're being told Arsenal are struggling to make moves in this January due to FFP. But if you get a few of the players off the balance sheet, that will open up opportunities to bring players in. Even if you get rid of Elneny and Jorginho, then try your luck. Say, go to Man City and offer them 20-30 million for Calvin Phillips. That would be perfect for Arsenal. That's a player who's getting 0 minutes in Man City, and we've seen what he can do with England. We saw what he can do at Leeds. This is a good enough player to be in this Arsenal squad. I don't get why we're not making these kinds of moves. Look at defence as well. We should be making moves in defence. We've just had news now that Zinchenko is set to miss a period of time with another injury. So that means we are seriously lacking in defensive personnel now. There was a lot of links before this January transfer window that Kiwior was going to be moved on. There was a lot of clubs in Italy that were interested in the signing of Jakub Kiwior, but that hasn't materialised in this January transfer window, and I don't know why. That would be perfect. If you get rid of Kiwior, then that would open up the opportunity for a branthwaite, who we have been heavily linked with in recent days. And that is definitely the type of deal that Arsenal should be looking at. That makes total sense to me. You're bringing in a Premier League proven player in branthwaite, good age profile, good player, and you're getting rid of a player in Jakub Kiwior who just didn't work out at Arsenal, and that's okay. You're going to have times where you bring in a player who seemingly has lots of potential, but they don't quite hit the mark. And there's no point in holding on to these kind of players in hopes that they might turn good. I think we've seen enough of Jakub Kiwior to understand that he maybe isn't the player that we thought. But with branthwaite, I think you have a real good player there. And I think that is the kind of player that Arsenal should be looking at. So we need to definitely bring in defensive reinforcements in this January transfer window. Even more so now with the fact that Zinchenko is injured again. But it's just frustrating. I seriously think Arsenal need to get a move on. We need at least a couple of players. You look at defence, you look at midfield. Striker, I understand. That's probably going to be more of a summer deal. The only chance we did have maybe was an Ivan Toney if you bring him in January. But there's reports going around now saying that he doesn't even want to leave Brentford. So with the striker, yes, I would love to have a striker brung in January, but we have to be realistic and understand that's probably not a deal that can happen in January. But I definitely still think there's some movements that can be made in this January transfer window, but I think that's probably heavily relying on the fact that we need to sell Eddie Nketiah before we can make our move, and I guess that's understandable. And if you can bring in 30 million for Eddie Nketiah, clubs like Crystal Palace and West Ham have been quoted as being interested, that's probably when Arsenal can make a move. But you're not going to use that £30 million and go and get a big hitter in January. You would probably go for more of a deal like that Mayoral that I did do a video on a week or so ago. And that's what we need. We need to try and be clever in this January transfer window. There's a player in Feyenoord, Jimenez, Mexican player, unbelievable striker for Feyenoord. If you can get a player like that for 30 or 40 million, then that's what we should be looking to do. We need to try and be creative in this market. We know we're close to the FFP line, but there's still deals that Arsenal can be doing. We can't afford to just sit around and do nothing when so many other teams are making moves in this market. We can't afford to stagnate. There's teams that are bringing in good players, and I think Arsenal will inevitably make a move, but at this rate we're probably only going to bring one player in when probably we need at least 2 or 3. We definitely need a defender and we definitely need a centre midfielder. So who could Arsenal realistically bring in this January transfer window? I think if you're looking at defence, you would have to say branthwaite is definitely a good idea. Like I said, this is a player who's been competing in the Premier League against the top teams and who has looked very good while doing that. So this is a player Arsenal should definitely be considering, especially if you can get him at a fee that is acceptable and doesn't hurt our balance sheet too too much. There's also been reports of Jeremy Frimpong, but he's more of a right back who likes pushing forward into right wing, and I don't think that's the kind of player Arsenal need at this exact minute. I think we need more defensive stability, so a more defensive minded player for sure I would take over Jeremy Frimpong at the minute. And in terms of centre mid, like I said, Calvin Phillips would be a good idea. There's a lot of reports going around that Man City are willing to listen to offers, so Arsenal should be going in there. And if they bought him for 50 million, he's only started twice since he's been there, since 2022. So you offer 20 or 30 million, that should be an offer acceptable, you would think, by Man City. So Calvin Phillips, but also Amadou Onana. Again, another player who's looked incredible in that Everton side. A player who's more defensively strong, which would suit Arsenal for what we need at the minute. So these are the players I think are realistic expectations that Arsenal could go out and secure this January. But let me know your thoughts on everything you've heard in this video. What kind of player would you look to bring in January? How many players do you think we need to bring in January? Thanks so much to everyone for watching and listening. If you could, before you go, just hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll speak to you all in tomorrow's video. Gooners, have a good day.